Club members only.
The Railroad Pass Casino in Henderson, Nevada operates under gaming license number 4, issued in August 1931, the oldest continuous gaming license in the state of Nevada.
Saturday night, they're doing inside stick on one craps table. Railroad Pass, room 522. Here we come.
We came in here upon reports from previous security personnel that there has been frequently seen an apparition of a lady in white walking the hallways, and on at least 2 occasions, guests given the key to room 522 on the 5th floor have arrived to find the deadbolt thrown, and when security then arrives with an override key, they in turn find that the inside latch has also been engaged, as well as the latch to the adjoining room.
The haunted room.
How many keys you got?
2 keys. No light.
Oh, wow. Because that's 3 lights right there.
That's nice and bright.
Are you going to bring your bag in
I
first?
was looking for some damn lights here, dear. There's no lights in the
I'll
room.
go first.
If I can get this to latch on its own. Well, that would be real close. Real close. That's why its latch is defective. That's why it's latching. How'd you get that light on? I couldn't get it on.
Magic.
Magic, huh?
As was to be expected, this was a small room. Although room 522 is supposed to be a mini-suite, I found it to be anything but. We brought in a surveillance unit concealed inside of an anti-shake case, set up the usual array of 4 cameras and the accessories that we use, the millimeter, cell sensors, EMF detectors, things of that nature. The Shure microphone and phantom-powered preamp were brought in to record any audio. The steakhouse is also a location where this lady in white is supposed to frequent. She has been reportedly seen by numerous dining patrons, appearing in the middle of the steakhouse, walking across the steakhouse, and vanishing through a wall. In discreetly interviewing employees, we could not find a single employee who had personally witnessed one of these events. However, the odd thing is that the people that have reported it to management have come from all around the world, did not know each other, and had not read anything about the steakhouse before they got here.
We'll see you later, Pat.
Bye-bye. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
Ooh, railroad lantern.
Sir,
Kind of
we'll be
cute.
with you shortly.
Thank you.
Enjoy. You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
We didn't see the lady in white while we were here, but I would say one thing. The food was great, and well within the budget of what we would expect to spend in a steakhouse in the Las Vegas area. That was a waiter running for rolls, by the way, and not an apparition.
The Haunted Steakhouse. Railroad Pass.
Adorning the walls of the steakhouse are vintage photographs of years gone by. One of these photographs is of the original Railroad Pass schoolhouse, first opened in January of 1932. Dining patrons who have seen this lady in white apparition point out that the apparition appears to be this woman schoolteacher that is standing in the photo. And the casino rationalizes this with the explanation that the steakhouse was built over the foundation of the original schoolhouse. As we will see later on, that is, at best, erroneous. Gambling, legal or illegal, has always existed in the state of Nevada, as it has in all the other western states. But in 1931, the state began to regulate it, requiring gaming licenses for the business ventures. The first gaming license in the state of Nevada was awarded to a woman, Mamie Stalker, on March 20th, 1931, for the Northern Club. Years later, in interviews, Mamie would state that the reason that she applied for it was because her husband and her oldest son both worked for the railroad, and it was considered immoral for railroad workers to be involved in gambling ventures. Two other hotels would shortly follow with their licensing, and in August of 1931, Railroad Pass would receive gaming license number 4. The first 3 are now defunct, so Railroad Pass now has the oldest existing license. During the 1930s and 40s, however, when Hoover Dam was being built, it was not just the Railroad Pass Club that was in that pass. Shanty towns and tent cities sprang up near the Railroad Pass Club due to limited housing in the Boulder City area. On this map, the Railroad Pass Casino sits here. A tent city called Texas Acres was on the west side of the road at the summit, while across the road was Oklahoma City. Directly across from Railroad Pass was Dee's Camp. Here there was a second casino dance club known as Mesa's Circle Bar, which became the Star Club and burned down in the early 1950s. Another camp, called the Showalter Camp, was on the northwest side of the pass and probably lay about here. Historians are uncertain on that one. The Prohibition years were in full swing, and these were all wild camps. The papers of the time report almost daily on liquor violation arrests. There were also deaths in these camps almost on a daily basis, as they were rough and rowdy, from children burning to death to accidents. One unsuccessful miner sat on top of 8 sticks of dynamite to commit suicide, blowing himself 200 yards. He was successful. And over the years, the newspapers illustrate that there have been literally dozens of people killed in auto accidents trying to turn into the Railroad Pass Casino or trying to walk across the road to reach it. To be expected, there were robberies, some people shot, but nobody killed. There were many owners over the years for the casino. Some of them didn't fare so well either, starting in 1951 with owner Chick Fesher, who died while on a fishing trip. The guys that were with him said he crawled into the back seat of the car to take a nap in Barstow, and by the time we got to Las Vegas, he was dead. Coincidentally, this was during the early years when the mob was trying to take control of the casinos. Chick was 38. On May 4th, 1956, a following owner committed suicide inside of the manager's office in the Railroad Pass Casino. This is the only confirmed death that I could find for the property itself. A few years later, in October 1961, a following owner's wife took her life in their Henderson home while he was at work. And, almost prophetically, just 2 years later, the following owners had to surrender the gaming license to the commission when they were caught cheating. The license was apparently held in suspension for new ownership. So, what about that school that supposedly stood where the steakhouse now stands, and is the possibility for the apparitional phenomena?
The state, the county, and even the country. My name is Sean Holden.
The current Railroad Pass is apparently convinced enough about it that they've erected a little museum, and this is one of their exhibits talking about the history of Railroad Pass. The single-room school was first opened in a tent in 1931. Dances were held at the Railroad Pass Club in order to raise money to build a permanent structure. The 1931 newspapers reported that there were 228 children living in Boulder City, 87 of those commuting to Las Vegas for the school district. The government would begin to build schools in Boulder City in 1932 for the workers, but the Railroad Pass School would stay around until 1942 to handle the students who existed outside of the federal area of Boulder City. In 1942, the Railroad Pass School District would be relocated to Henderson. In his book, History of Clark County Schools, Harvey Dondero states, the small Railroad Pass schoolhouse sat on the south side of the high point of the pass. That's right where Texas Acres sat, which is nowhere near where the present casino sits. So, armed with a 1930s pic of the sign leading to the schoolhouse, we thought we'd drive out and see if we couldn't verify that. So I'm standing here at the point where the railroad tracks intersect the highway going down to Railroad Pass. And we can see from this shot, when these images are superimposed, all of the terrain features match up except for this one peak here, which has been strip mined by an active allanite mining firm.
then it matches up with the shot of the Railroad Pass school sign. So this is where Railroad Pass School actually set. If I pan to the left, we can see that down about a half a mile is where the Railroad Pass Casino actually stands. And if I keep panning around, we'll see the mountain in the other picture, which is where the Texas Acres picture was taken from in the 1950s.
This is a pic of what was left of the Texas Acres site, circa about 1950.
What was left of Texas Acres, also the shot of where the moon sign still was at. There is a pretty impressive dump area here where Texas Acres used to stand. At this point, the railroad track goes down into a gully, and you can see that. That's the black line in the picture that I'm pointing to with the arrow. This lays to rest once and for all that the schoolhouse actually set below where the steakhouse is now built. Railroad Pass is about a half mile down the road on the left-hand side, on the north side of the road. The schoolhouse set on the south side of the highway.
So what about this woman who resembles the apparition? This school teacher of the Railroad Pass School, which foundation lays directly underneath the current steakhouse, which actually lay a half mile up the road. On June 8, 1938, the newspapers reported that there had been a hit-and-run car crash, and that one of the persons involved in that car wreck had been a certain Mrs. Alice Mackey, school teacher at Railroad Pass for several years. We don't know how long several years was, and if Miss Mackey was the same woman that's in the photo. What we do know, however, is that she did survive the crash, as she's listed in the 1940 census as a school teacher in Boulder City. She gleaned an article in the newspaper simply by virtue that she was a teacher at Railroad Pass. I guess what I'm saying is that if another teacher had met an untimely death through suicide or homicide, the newspapers would certainly have reported on that also. It was a short investigation, I will grant that. The equipment ran for no more than about 10 hours, the time that we were staying in the hotel. And within that, at best, limited amount of time, there was nothing to indicate to me that there was any activity in or about the hotel at all. We do believe that we uncovered the secret to the self-locking latch. However, that would not apply to the deadbolt. This is the latch that supposedly security had to cut off. I think I was told that it was a chain. We could see some holes up here where there used to be something there, and they've moved it. But I can tell you that this latch right here doesn't open all the way. It'd be quite easy for it to slide back just far enough that if someone slammed the door, it would catch in that, and then it would go ahead and basically self-lock itself the next time that somebody opened the door. So that could be what happened on those two occasions when they came up here and had to cut the lock off in order to get into the room. Our activity level findings for the Railroad Pass Casino in Henderson, Nevada was none encountered and none recorded. We do believe that we were validly able to disprove or debunk the findings of the haunted school teacher. The old schoolhouse did not stand under where the steakhouse now stands. In fact, according to maps that I've seen, that was most likely occupied by prostitution cribs, as was the place where the truckers now park their semis with their sleeper berths. Yeah, nothing's changed over time. Interestingly, the tower hallways which this apparition prowls were not built until after Mandalay Bay and Circus Properties bought the hotel in 1995. There may have been a latter-day occurrence that happened in these hotel rooms that I was not able to find and that the casino managed to hush up. And still, the reports of the Lady in White keep coming in.